Tell me your answer to these data questions. Which is harder to read? This, which has a bunch of random spaces, missing spaces, some weird line returns, case sensitivity issues, and all sorts of weird formatting. Or this, which follows standard writing conventions. Now, how about these Ruby code snippets? This first example here shows good and bad practices of having one item per line versus having multiple items per line. And the second example here shows the difference between good and bad practices when using spaces or not using spaces. So if we have standard formatting practices for writing articles and books, as well as writing Ruby and other languages of code, why do so many people seem to not follow a standard practice when writing SQL code? I've been writing SQL code for more than 20 years and leading teams for the last 12 years, and I've seen a lot of bad code in my day. When it comes to this bad code, I tend to place blame on a few key issues. First, a lot of data analysts don't necessarily work on a team, and when they do, they don't necessarily work together like an efficient team. Meaning the code isn't always stored properly, they're not necessarily doing code reviews or sharing all their code with other coworkers. And without these practices, it's really hard for anybody to give and receive feedback to improve the quality of code. But before anybody can give feedback about the best practices, people would have to learn the best practices to start with. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of people overlook the fact that code quality does matter, and then I've run into a fair number of people that actually resist improving the quality of their code. They'll give arguments such as, I'm the only person reading my code, it doesn't really matter, I don't have time for that, or everybody else does it that way. However, none of these things are actually true, and they're just excuses for improving and creating some better practices within the analytics environment. So, if you want to be a high-value data analyst, you have to improve the quality of your code. This will allow you and your coworkers to more effectively and more efficiently read and debug code, and that's going to make you faster at your job and produce fewer bugs. And even if you don't think people are going to read your code today, there's always a chance they will in the future, and even if that doesn't happen, you should always take pride in your work and put your best self forward.